Hello and welcome back to GameSpot's second stage here on the second day of E3. You're watching it on GameSpot.com/E3 or Twitch.com/GameSpot E3 Stage 2. I'm delighted to be joined on stage now by Anthony and Ashley Burch and Adam as well from Gearbox.
He doesn't matter.
He doesn't matter, okay. That's why he's not mic'd up. You can say whatever you want about him.
I was the worst.
I think his glasses make him look like a jerk, personally.
I think him being a jerk makes him look like a jerk personally. But
so here we're here to talk about the Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. Yeah. You get that right?
Yeah.
The insanely long titled DLC, which is inspired by something very close to my heart, tabletop gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, give us the top line. Tell us about it.
Sure. Basic premise is that where the other DLCs were about like finding a big treasure or like winning a tournament or saving the world or whatever the hell, this actual DLC is about 4 people: Tina, Roland, or not Roland, he's dead. Tina, Brick, Lilith, and Mordecai sitting down to play a game of basically Dungeons and Dragons, except we call it Bunkers and Badasses. Mm-hmm. And what you play is the module that they're going through. So even though the canon story is 4 people hanging out, just sort of shooting the shit.
Yep.
Can I curse?
It's fucking fine.
Great. The in-canon story is just them hanging out. The actual thing you experience through the 10 or so hours of gameplay is fighting orcs and dragons and dwarves and all that kind of stuff, but filtered through a sort of Borderlands cookie filter, and B, through Tiny Tina's imagination. Since she's such an unreliable narrator, she's changing things all the time, and yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a big change to the narrative structure of an open world game. I mean, Borderlands has got a strong story anyway, but it's kind of interesting. But anyway, that wasn't a question. That was just an observation. So here's a question. Ashley, how was it voicing Tiny Tina in this one? Because it's definitely more hands-on than the kind of missions that you get in the main game, right?
Yeah, definitely. So Tiny Tina in the main game, you kind of just get like a bite-sized piece of her, and then again in the Torb DLC. And in both of those, she's pretty frenetic and on all the time, and just really like crazy and energetic. In this one, because she's the narrator, if she was that all the time, then you'd just be like, so we decided to bring her down a little bit and make her definitely still Tiny Tina, but she's got a bit more nuance to her emotionally and hopefully performance-wise through this DLC. No, not really. She's using this campaign as kind of a way to deal with the deaths of her friends from the main game. So this is actually a healing process for her, weirdly. This entire kooky story is actually her way of dealing with Roland's death specifically. So it's a different side to Tiny Tina that you haven't quite seen before.
Yep.
But with still all of the fun fart jokes and raps and whatever other things that she does.
All right, well, we have a live demo to show off.
Yes.
Would you be so kind as to introduce it, perhaps, as Tiny Tina, or in the voice?
Sup, Shorty? This is my DLC. It's pretty much the coolest add-on campaign y'all have ever seen.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, so where we are now actually is in the Dwarven Mines, and Adam is going to try to find a wise sorcerer who he has done some work for to basically get him an awesome sorcerer's beard, because that's where you get your power from in this world, and a great sorcerer's staff. And then once Adam stops getting set on fire by his own stupid mistakes,
God damn it,
he's going
Adam.
to find the sorcerer and get to business. That was cool. So yeah, you're seeing all these new enemies. We have these spiders, the orcs, we have dwarves. We basically have more new enemies in this DLC than in the other 3 combined. And we have more new sort of level assets and just art than the other 3 DLCs combined as well. This is by far our biggest DLC. And yeah, kind of knowing that this is probably going to be our last add-on campaign for the Season Pass, we kind of just want to have a cool swan song and go out on a high note and just be very fan servicey and crazy, which is kind of one of the advantages of actually having this take place in Tina's imagination, is that like, oh, some people like Handsome Jack from the main game, but he's dead, so we can't just show up unless he's showing up in Tina's imagination, and it's her twisted, skewed version of Jack. So hopefully people will respond to that.
Yeah, and compared to the other characters, she kind of gives you the most freedom, right, to do sort of whatever you want to do narratively.
Yeah, why don't you answer the fucking questions from now on?
What
was it like writing this, Ash?
Oh, it was pretty good, I'm just super good at writing. I don't know if you know. I also have a really nice beard. Anthony Burch, Anthony Burch, Anthony Burch.
I'm tiny. I can't reach most things. I'm Ashley Burch.
I really can't reach most things.
So, obviously you're very used to writing dialogue for your sister with Ash what to play in.
Yeah.
Did you always have Ash in mind for Tiny Tina as a character?
It was fairly early in the process where I realized I was kind of indirectly basing the character Tiny Tina off of Ash's persona in Hey Ash, mixed with this friend of ours named Christina, which is why she's named Tina. But yeah, it was the easy assumption to make is that I was just like, yeah, this is for Ash, and then Ash just walked in and was like, haha, I'll take this role, yes. But in reality, it was like, we sent out all these auditions for a bunch of different actresses, and Ash had hers come in, and we sat down in a room and listened to all of them, and I didn't say which one was which, and I didn't say which one I preferred, and they were like, oh, it's clearly the awful one, the one that sucks. That's the one we want.
She sounds tiny, I can tell.
Yeah.
She'll be perfect for this character.
She sounds like she looks about 8 years old.
I was like, oh boy.
Yay, it's me.
Do you think she finds it weird that we've been talking about her like she's not here?
No. She's used to that.
Oh, okay.
No one ever talks to me directly. No, yeah, it was cool. When Anthony called me about auditioning, I was just positive that it wasn't going to work out because it was like too big and too awesome. But yeah, luckily we apparently because it was a blind audition process, they didn't know it was me, like Anthony said. So it was only a little bit of nepotism, maybe.
Yeah, just a touch.
Just a touch.
It's
a
like
little
cinnamon.
Flavor, just a little sprinkling of nepotism on your tiny Tyrion.
Make it come alive.
make it
I've played so many AAA games. I'm like, I like this, but I don't feel like somebody's cousin got a role on the voice cast, and I can feel that it's not as good as a result of that.
1 out of 10 would not play.
All right, so talk us through a little bit of what we're seeing now.
What we're seeing now is a quest called the Claptrap's Apprentice, which is the last quest in a chain where you're basically helping Claptrap become a good sorcerer, because he's Claptrap, he sucks at everything, he's pretty much worthless as a human being.
Yep.
But you've done all these things to get him what he needs to be a good sorcerer, and this is now sort of the climax of that, where he's casting all these spells and stuff like that, and because he's Claptrap, it's going to go wrong and horrible and stupid, and he's going to mess everything up because he sucks, and you're going to have to sort of clean up the results. And you'll see very quickly that it's a pretty big homage to something crazy obvious in a few seconds.
Well, speaking of homages, we're getting some questions through from Twitter, which I'm looking at with this glorious Samsung Galaxy S4. I don't know if you've seen these. They're fucking amazing. Talk us through some of the kind of homages in the game. Like, how much D&D did you play, or what kind of tabletops did you play to really add authenticity to this experience?
We play D&D mostly.
Fourth Ed. Which I know a lot of people will turn their noses out of Fourth Ed.
Plebeians.
Oh, you baby! How you like a baby game, baby?
We are.
Yeah.
We're D&D babies. Our friend Yuli DMs a campaign that we've been doing for not super long. We keep starting campaigns and then not finishing them.
I think that's just what D&D does.
I guess that's just what D&D does.
There's probably 3 campaigns in the history of the franchise that actually finished.
Yeah, that's true.
In a way that didn't involve the DM going, fuck all you, and then killing everybody.
Sure.
That sounds nice.
But yeah.
Sounds good. But I was asked by Cynthia, our community manager, who I think you met earlier, do you want us to know if there's a I'm Attacking the Darkness reference in there?
There is an achievement for that.
Fantastic. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Wow. That's
we basically, every cliche, every weird thing you could do, we kind of went down the list and we're like, how do we take this and make it weird and Borderlandsy, and did it. So as you're seeing now, this is clearly just we are now the second Fantasia-related game at E3 this year, with you fighting these broomsticks. But yeah, there's all kinds of weird references, not just to the obvious there's 2 enemies called Mountain and not called the Mountain and the Hound, but called Canine and Molehill, ha ha ha. But there's a quest that's specifically about making references to other media, not a quest that does that, but a quest that's about that.
Right.
Tina has this whole quest about referencing Game of Thrones, but Mordecai's never seen Game of Thrones, so he's like, this is doing nothing for me. I don't understand. Can you please reference something I know? So she goes, okay, and then put somebody in from something he likes. And then they have this big long argument about which is better, the show or the books for Game of Thrones. It's just crazy. It's that's one of the neat things about the fact that it's really just 4 people hanging out playing a game, is that a lot of the dialogue is them just shooting the shit and hanging out, being very casual, whereas the rest of the time you meet them, they're like, oh, Handsome Jack's destroying the world, It's just the entire story of Borderlands. They're just for 60 hours. 8 out of 10. Not bad.
Good rating.
Yeah, there's nepotism, so I liked it.
Yeah, that's good. I always add marks on for nepotism. Now, of course, with it being set in Tina's imagination, it gives you a hell of a lot of creative freedom, but was that daunting in a way, to have such limitless possibilities? I mean, I believe you made a Hey Ash about getting the jitters about writing, right?
I never feel good about writing, ever.
Okay.
That's just a thing. We're both the same. I mean, Ash is a writer too, and
we imposters are pretty good. We're like, oh, this is the one good thing that we did.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not even that good, and we'll never do a good thing ever again.
Yeah. And people find out we're imposters, and then we'll just come and just stab us to death in our sleep, and we'll go okay, fair enough, I deserve that. I'm sorry.
It's fine. But, as long as you keep employing each other, then
you're
always going to have
luck,
luck,
right? Just keep doing that nepotism relay race.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, I mean, the what's cool about this is that despite the fact that it looks like it's got a bunch of crazy, it's got no restrictions at all, it kind of, in a weird way, does, because like, okay, so you can't talk about anything that's like really canon, centric. It's not like, it would be weird to do like a radio play basically, because you're never going to leave this fantasy world to have like, oh no, Handsome Jack came back as an enormous robot and he's like rampaging around the city. Oh no, if only you could see this and play it, but you're only hearing it through the the radio. Like that would be weird. So the restriction is actually like, how can we have something that takes place in this fantasy world, something that is almost all imaginary, but still at the end of the game feel like we've made some sort of narrative progress or character progress.
Sure.
And what we did with that was sort of honing in on the idea that this is actually Tina's way of dealing with death, so that at the end of the campaign, you'll feel like, okay, maybe not some big world-changing horrible thing happened, but at the end of the day, they became better friends. Tina sort of learned to deal with the fact that some of her friends aren't coming back and all that, and it's a very different kind of scale for our DLC. Usually they're big and explosive, and I really liked writing something that was much more personal and kind of just casual.
Sure. I've got another Twitter question from this incredible Wonderphone. We've covered off
what
some
can't
of the...
those phones do?
I know! We've covered off a lot of the, the art assets and the new enemies and stuff. Is there any new stuff in terms of loot or weapon types?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we have a gun that gets you drunk when you shoot it called the Grog Nozzle. We have a gun that shoots exploding swords. The swords just fly out and then hit something and explode into other smaller swords.
Uh-huh.
We have magic spells in the game now, actually, which are these grenade mods. They took our grenade mods, Rob Hieronymus, this designer, took them and then completely rejiggered them so that instead of just you throw a grenade, it explodes, they come straight out of your chest like a fireball would or whatever. Your character screams fireball, magic missile, whatever. And then when they explode, they do a bunch of damage, and then your grenade ammo actually regenerates over time in the same way that mana would in like a fantasy, like your Skyrim or whatever.
Sure.
So they actually feel like magic spells, despite the fact that technologically they're just grenades, which I thought was a really brilliant way of sort of making that work.
Awesome. All right.
So right now, Adam is running through the Dwarven Mines, basically trying to get to the handsome sorcerer and rescue the beautiful queen of Flame Rock Refuge. So yeah, the actual plot of the module that Tina's making is it's kind of like, it's cliche. It's probably fair to say it's cliche because Tina's got a lot of enthusiasm and not the most talent. She'll, you'll come up against the boss and she'll bounce the boss improperly, and Lilith will be like, this is kind of not fun, and Tina will go, shit, okay, sorry, fuck, and then she'll change everything around and all that kind of stuff.
So you've really tried to get into some of the kind of the dynamics that exist in every tabletop game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The four characters at the table kind of represent archetypes of people we've all sort of played D&D with. Like Lilith is like hardcore into D&D, like gets a little bit like
too into it maybe.
Too into it, like gets a little bit rule Nazi-ish about some stuff, or like if you say something that contradicts the fiction of the world, she's like, that's breaking the canon of the world you set up. Brick has never played it before, but he's kind of interested in it. Tina is just gung-ho, but doesn't have the most skill. And Mordecai just thinks it's the dumbest thing in the world. He's here because he's hanging out with his friends, but like he doesn't want to be here. And sort of as it goes on, he's like, there might actually be something kind of to this. But initially he's like, this is the stupid, why are we fighting orcs? This is so dumb.
Yeah.
And speaking to yourselves, when you tabletop personally, which types do you tend to fall into?
I generally always break the canon. I like the way that I think that with our friend group, the way that we generally play tabletop games is less like really being immersed and really respecting the fictional world, and more like it's almost these improvisational sort of comedy things.
Yeah.
Like we were playing D&D. I know nothing's more boring than listening to somebody tell a story of what happened in D&D, but we were playing D&D with our friend Yuli, and we had all these characters, and we were all meeting each other for the first time, and our friend Grant, he wakes up after this big spaceship crash, and the first thing he says is, all right, guys, first of all, I'm not a vampire. And they're like, okay, great.
So you're a vampire.
So you're a vampire, and for the next 3 hours tried to convince us he wasn't, and then did things like, I'm going to use my bloodsuck skill, and we're like, what are you? He's like, I'm just enthusiastic. Like, yeah, we're way more in the,
and he tries to seduce like literally every person he comes across, and yeah, so
it's always that guy.
Yeah, we don't really RP faithfully. We kind of just do it to have fun. I've never played like an actual, probably legitimate D&D campaign because we never do it quite that way.
I think we promised ourselves we're going to, and then we're like, but what if the vampire?
But what if your name was Butt Wizard the Wizard? His name actually is Butt Wizard the Wizard.
He's not a wizard. He's a warlock. His name is John Butt Wizard the Wizard, PhD.
It sounds like playing with you guys would be quite an adventure. I've just got one more question from God's own phone. Is there any...
It took a break from feeding the hungry and sheltering the shelterless.
Yeah, they've got enough fish and bread to be going on with. Is there any news on Borderlands for the Vita?
I actually don't know. I'll give you what Adam said.
Okay, well,
that's most nonchalant.
Informative enough.
Yeah, something we want, evidently. Here, Adam, say something.
It's something we want, but for right now, we don't have any extra news from that. I know a lot of fans want the Vita version, but we'll see.
Such
That was a waste of everyone's time, Adam.
Adam Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen.
God damn it, Adam Fletcher.
All right, so if there was one thing you could, you really don't want players to miss out on when they're playing through this DLC, what one thing should they really make sure they pay attention to and catch when they're playing this through?
I'll go first. I think we actually responded to something that the players wanted more of in the main game, which is they wanted their player characters to talk more. They wanted to feel like they were playing as characters rather than just blank ciphers. So what we did was there are many different scenarios in the campaign where Tina will say something like, "Your character notices that this place smells like butts and dead people," and then your character specifically will say some version of that. She'll be like, "This smells like butts and dead people." If you're Maya, or if you're Krieg, the Psycho, he'll be like, "Oh, this smells like home," or whatever. So you'll have these little moments sprinkled all throughout where, depending on your character, they'll react to things differently.
Fantastic.
There's a really cool quest with Ellie, which I won't say what it pertains to at all, or can I? So the quest with Ellie is you have the choice of getting her some really cool, like actually functional armor that makes sense. It's kind of like a riff on how every female character in a fantasy game has like a bra that like barely covers her boobs and like a metal bikini situation going on. So you can either fetch Ellie actual armor or you can fetch her like Princess Leia metal armor. Which I thought was a cool idea.
Which is kind of like a win for us on either way, because it's like if you gave her the like good stuff, then it's like, oh cool, you're being progressive. If you give her the more skanky stuff, it's like, oh cool, I've never seen a character that looks like that in a game outside of Saints Row or whatever. So that's neat.
Yeah.
But there's another quest called Fake Geek Guy that I hope people like, which is like
that one's
yeah. So Torg, who's in the second DLC, is this big muscly like awesome guy, just this like Adonis dude, and for some reason we set up this rule in our world that it's actually more normal for girls to play Bunkers and Badasses than it is for guys to play. So when Torg comes in and wants to play Bunkers and Badasses with them, Lilith is like, this is bull. Like, you're a big muscly guy that takes care of your body. There's no way you actually care about nerdy stuff like this. You're just doing it because it's popular and blah, blah, blah. And you have to go on this quest to like find a bunch of questions so that Torg can prove how geeky he truly is.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. Super subtle satire from Borderlands 2. But yeah, I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
To just twist that knife. For people who are like, Needy Sarkeesian. It's like, how about you shut up forever? How about you're dumb? How about you dumb?
We've just got Georgina Perez asks, definitely through this phone. Are you guys?
That was super subtle. Definitely through this phone that the screen is off that I've been flipping up and
Are
down.
they playing as Krieg the Psycho?
That's a good one.
The new downloadable character from Borderlands 2. It seems you are. This is Krieg, right?
Yeah, currently we're playing as Krieg, yeah.
Okay.
He works pretty well in this campaign, actually, because there's a lot of, you see he's fighting a paladin, there's orcs and stuff, there's a lot of melee-centric enemies, so if Krieg gets in and mixes it up, he can actually do a great deal of damage. There's a whole new Circle of Slaughter in the game called the Temple of Slaughter, and it's all about traps, melee enemies, and all this, really good. It's one of the best, I think it's the best Circle of Slaughter that's ever been in Borderlands. I played through it as a melee-spec'd Krieg, and I dominated. It was one of the most satisfying things I've ever had. I just running around just stabbing people in the face and then running and then stabbing and running and stabbing.
Right. Nice.
How about the Samsung, right?
God, it's just incredible.
This DLC is like the Samsung Galaxy of DLC.
It is. We actually, our sister site CNET, they did a test, and this thing can survive for 2.5 hours. If you run it over with a truck, though, it will break. They found that out.
If you're in a cruise liner accident, then type quick.
Yes, exactly. CNET.com. So when can people expect to get their hands on this DLC?
June 25th.
June 25th.
It's coming out on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. And if you have the Season Pass, it's free.
All right.
If you don't have the Season Pass, what the deal?
Girl, what the deal?
Girl, what your problem?
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on.
Thank you.
It was really lovely to spend time with you. And yeah, the game looks great. Can't wait to see it. Play it. Play it. I'm
Samsung.
Samsung! Awesome. All right. So coming up next, we've got Deadfall Adventures on GameSpot's second stage. I'm on that camera. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. I'm messing up this outro. Bye-bye.
Samsung.